Everyone, good evening. Welcome to Team U Finances Live. Hope everybody's doing well. Just, wanted to have a little chat with everyone tonight. It's a weekend. Guess everybody's out getting ready to go party, but I'm here talking about, finance and money or, whatever you did in your day. But anyway, tonight's topic is going to be on financial literacy. Now, I know I post a lot of videos and, I talk about leveling up and so forth, but I really want to talk about, hi, Nista. Thank you so much for saying hello. Thank you for joining me. I know I post a lot of videos about finance. And I know I post a lot about, leveling up, but the one thing that I realize that I haven't really talked about is literally, being financially literate. What does that mean? Like, well, first of all, let's define what literacy is because that's right, in my field, learning about literacy, teaching and learning that's where my beginnings are from. That's where I'm humble from. But literacy basically is like when you know how to read or you understand things and you know how to do things. And so definitely when you have the knowledge and the power, hi Arinze, thank you for joining. When you're literate, you basically have a knowledge and you know what to do, right? But in terms of finance, when there's no literacy or no knowledge, we have a lot of stumbling blocks, right? And some of those stumbling blocks, I mean, I personally dealt with them growing up, being an adult. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to try my best, to teach people about, literacy, specifically financial literacy. So where do we begin? Like how do we begin our financial journey? What are some things that we need to do? Other than, people saying to you, listen, go out, work, save your money, the regular adage. But what are some things that we need to do to start, learning about finance so we could become literate, so we can know how to control money and, not let money control us? What are some things that we need to do? Anybody have any idea? Well, I'll tell you what I started doing later as I learned about literacy. The very first thing that I did was like I literally started analyzing my money, started analyzing my finances because I found that I was getting up and I'm going to my day job and hi Christina, thank you for joining me. I'm going to my day job, but yet I'm not seeing any progress. I'm on that old thing, job, just over broke. That's exactly where I was. And I figured that if I can, analyze, my numbers or analyze my check, I could learn a little bit more about my money. Now, that was the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing for me to do was literally like, write the numbers down and look at like what was coming in and what was going out. And that's the reality of it. Nobody wants to see that because when you do it, you'll see that more is going out than what's coming in. You're basically in the negative. And so I said to myself, I said I wasn't going to let money keep controlling me because that's what it was. I found that after paying my bills, my day-to-day expenses, taking care of my household, my children, etc., I don't have a dollar. And I said, not that I'm not rich now. I'm just like everybody else, just trying every day, trying to make a dollar to 15 cents. But I kind of feel like I have a little better headway, a little bit better. Not great, but a little bit better headway. Meaning that, I have to keep robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I said I was going to stop doing that. And, by the grace of God, it's been a little bit better for me. So that's a plus. That was my blessing, you know. And before we go on, I want to talk about that too. Before we get back to our numbers, I want to talk about this whole thing of blessing because I know in the age that we live, like a lot of people is just centered on technology and, everybody's in the rush, but nobody's really sitting up there along with their hard work, being thankful and prayerful and happy that they're able to even survive to get through this life because it's not easy out here. Whether it be your finance, your personal life, anything you're doing, you still gotta, have the sense of God. You still gotta, put God in that formula to make anything work for you. Right. But anyway, going back to when I finally saw my numbers. So after doing my budget and looking at exactly like, what was coming and going out, it was horrible for me. I didn't like the numbers. So I said, I'm gonna start doing some little things. I'm gonna start saving more. I'm gonna cut back on some of the things that I don't need, that I wanted. First thing that we got to cut back on is those ridiculous subscriptions. Yes, I love them too, but you can cut back on some of them. You really can. And my sister that's on the live right now, Nista, and I got to shout you out because you have a great thing going there with that cash stuff, and where basically she's stuffing those envelopes and she's paying herself and putting away some money first. So that's one thing that I said that I really need to get into myself. But it's just another way to see where your money's going, right? So with Nista, it's like Nista is seeing where the cash is coming in. She's not really seeing, where it's going out anymore, which is, really, really wonderful. So those are some of the things that we can do. Yes, sis, of course, you inspire me. But those are some of the things that we needed to do. We need to see where our money was coming in. Once I did the numbers and I realized, okay, I could make a little bit more money for myself. I have a little bit more money. Now I'm able to buy some more things that I want. And we all know, yes, you can go in a store and you can buy everything cash. You can put your card and get your gift cards. But the first thing that we need to really work on after seeing our numbers is that big C, and that's that credit. Okay. We need to definitely work on that credit. I think Arinze is on the live. Arinze Digital. Arinze Luke was on the live. And this young man is actually wonderful with credit. He's always talked about credit and so forth and leveling up. And that was what I did second, was getting my credit together. Inspired by him and a lot of teachings that, that he personally showed me about leveling up, in terms of credit. So now, I finally see where my numbers are going in, are coming out. I've established a budget for myself. I have a little bit more money for myself. But at this point, I want to start buying things because I feel like I'm leveling up. So the first thing I did was cleaning up my credit. I don't care what everybody says. And again, growing up, I'll speak for me personally. Credit wasn't something that was readily discussed in my household. I heard about it. I knew about it. I was really introduced to knowing about credit. Yes, Mr. Please, he's fabulous. I know him personally. Credit wasn't readily discussed in my house. I heard about credit after, when I was in college and I got my first credit card that I thought was a gift. I thought that if I used it, I didn't have to pay anything back. Well, I learned the hard way when the numbers was dwindling and I really wanted to buy something seriously. So that's exactly what ended up happening with me. Once I assessed and realized that my credit profile wasn't good, yeah, I started cleaning up my credit. Did I pay somebody to do it? No, I didn't. I could have, and so forth. But again, like I just said before, I'm trying to get my numbers right. So any little bit that I could keep in, that I could basically stuff, like my sister stuff money. I kept stuffing my money like into certain things. I wasn't gonna keep spending and spending. So what I ended up doing was I contacted 3 major credit bureaus by myself. I literally called them, and again, I know we're in the age of technology, but I literally got my snail mail. I got my 3 reports from the bureaus, and I sat down and I literally like compare them side to side because yes, I know a lot of us have botched our credit and there's things on there that through, no fault of our own or faults of our own. But a lot of times these bureaus, they put a lot of false information on there. It happens. Remember, the bureaus is managing like a billion people literally every day. Your credit isn't special to them, but you're special to you. So that's why you gotta get your 3 reports and you gotta compare for the 3 major credit bureaus. And I did that. That's right. I did that. And when I compare my reports, basically I would send my letters out. I would dispute it myself again. That's me investing in myself again. There's nothing wrong with paying somebody to clean it up, but at the same time, like I said, I'm trying to keep some of my dollars in. So I would literally sit there and I would invest my time in cleaning up my own credit. And over time, I did that. I did that when, I was trying to purchase my house. Right, right. That's right, Mister. I did that when I was trying to purchase my house. And, like I said, I cleared it up. I was able to get a decent interest rate and it did work out. But I want to tell people, in everything in life, whether you're just doing your budget, just looking at your numbers first, you're starting your credit restoration, whatever, this and that, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. People look at it and say, oh, I want instant results, and they get fed up and they move on or they get turned off. It doesn't work like that. You got to invest some time in you. And by me, doing my numbers and basically clean up my credit, that was the first time that I really started investing in myself. Because remember, if my credit profile was good or my credit score was good, I have more money. Like I'm getting better interest rates. I'm not getting 30%. I'm not getting, 25% at the time. I'm not getting 18%. I'm coming out with like 5, 6%. That was decent at the time. I know they say you get, 0.2%, but ugh, please, it's all hogwash. But you get what I'm saying. You have to invest in yourself. And that was what I started doing, to invest in myself. Now, moving along with the credit are the things that I did. And this one was really big for me. Like, at the time I heard about them things called the high yield savings accounts, right? Those were beautiful. The funny thing is, I remember one day I was at work and I heard a young lady, and anybody that's in their 20s, I call them young people because I'm boxing in my 40s. And I heard a young lady, she was talking to somebody, she wasn't talking to me, and I heard her say, to the lady she's talking to, she's like, "Oh, on my high yield savings account, I'm getting this interest rate." And at the time I'm hearing like 4%. And I'm like, 4. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, with my regular, savings that I have in America's biggest bank, we know who that is, and all the other banks and the banks that stays 24 hour, that other one, I'm getting like what, 0.3%, if that much. I'm literally getting like 60 or 70 cents a year. No joke, no lie. But I was just amazed at how this young girl knew about the high yield savings accounts. And for people that don't know what the high yield savings accounts are, basically high yield savings accounts, or HYSAs, they're basically accounts that give you extremely high interest rates. Not like with a CD that you got to lock away for a minute, or not with a money market account where you got to write a certain amount of checks to get the rate. There's no trick to it. All they want you to do is basically sweep your money away bi-weekly or monthly. And because most of them, they're these fintech companies, they're online. So that's why they end up giving you like a higher interest rate, than the regular banks the brick and mortar banks. So again, I was amazed that this young lady knew about the high yield savings accounts. And, I said to myself, I'm like, hell, I'm in my 40s and I don't even have one. I don't even have a high yield savings account. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And of course, me, I like to find out information. And I literally went and I asked her, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And she was like, "Oh, no, nothing." She was like, my parents, they opened one for me and I contribute to it. Like every time when I get paid, I contribute to it and I put my money in. So what I did was I ended up going and doing some research. And that's when I started like doing high yield savings accounts. Right. That's how I started paying myself first. That's what led me to paying myself first. Yes, when I'm on my job, whatever, I put a little something aside. I've joined credit unions, I've done all of that and so forth. But at the time, I'd always go back and borrow from myself, because me, I don't borrow from people. Right? We weren't taught. That's right, Mister. We were not taught anything, and this is why I'm so passionate about this YouTube channel that I got going, because I really feel that I could reach so much people. I feel that I could motivate so many people to, start like paying themselves first. You know, Another adage is that, a lot of us, we get paid, and, we have these banks that, that gets our direct deposit. And when we get broke, a lot of us don't even know that we should go and establish a relationship with the bank that's using our money to, to make interest or to loan to other people, to go get a relationship, instead of going to people and, borrowing from people, and have people embarrass you, put you below your dignity and so forth. Go to your bank. Your bank is making how much money off your money? The bank could count on you. So why can't you count on your bank? And people are not doing that. They're not doing those things. And I talk a lot about it. Like, if you look on my channel, a lot of my shorts, or even, my regular long form videos, I tell people all the time, especially, certain people, I say, stop embarrassing yourself. Because who has the most money problems? We know which community and what community has the money problems. The reason why we have money problems is not because we're lazy, or it's not because we want to have it. It's because we weren't taught anything. This is where the financial literacy ties in. You get what I'm saying? You know, it's like we weren't taught nothing. We weren't taught how to save, how to budget, what to open, how to manage our credit. And so as a result, we end up having financial difficulties. We end up buying the wrong things all the time. So anyway, back to what I was saying about the high yield savings accounts. I ended up opening, and that's where I started, doing my saving journey, right? And to this day, it's something that I tell my own children. I bank my money. I absolutely, seen great results with it. So that's what I try to tell people to do. You know, other than that, I mean, there's been times where I did feel stagnant. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that I've never had any stumbling blocks after that. Of course. Of course. So in doing so, I later learned that, you know what, instead of going to people and asking people for, for help, why not go to my bank? Again, another one of my videos, I talked about it. I said, build a relationship with your bank. How do you build a relationship with your bank? You're already doing it. You don't even realize you're doing it. You're having your direct deposit coming in there. Okay. I also talk about it. If you don't have your credit established, get a secured credit card with that bank. Make your payments on time. When you make your payments on time, the bank sees that you're financially responsible. Okay? You're financially responsible. If you need you a little loan, something quick. I'm not talking about no payday loans because those are the worst things in the world. I'm talking about a good, legitimate loan. When you borrow from the bank, nobody knows your business except the bank. You are a number to them. It's your account number. Okay? When you establish that relationship with the bank says, okay, so and so, got their money coming in. I could count on them. They got a credit card, whether it's a regular credit card or a secured credit card. They know for sure exactly, Mr. It's stability. That you're stable. You are a stable customer. You have financial management. You have money management. Okay? But we got to get out of this notion of, when I'm broke, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call somebody and be like, oh, so and so, can you lend me $20? Can you lend me $100? Listen, I made a video where I told people, I said, whenever the borrower comes to you, it was actually people that you got to stay away from. And I said, whenever the borrower comes to you, the first question that you need to ask the borrower, if you decide to lend the borrower that money, you got to ask the borrower, okay, what is your plan to pay me back? How you going to do it? If that borrower cannot tell you how they're going to pay you back, there is absolutely no reason, no way you should lend your money to that borrower. Okay? You got to have a plan. And back to the relationship with the bank. When you go in the bank to borrow any money, they're going to ask you, how you going to pay us back? Remember, you already got that direct deposit coming in. So they have an idea that money's going to be coming in for you to make that loan, right? For you to make those payments, right? Those are the things that we have to do. We have to build relationships with our bank when we're down. And let me tell you something. If you start building those relationships, let's say, for example, like you want to start a little business, because everybody knows that it takes money to start business. You want to start a business with your credit, whatever. The bank has already been watching you. So it should be no problem for you to get that business or that startup loan going into the bank. But again, right. I'm sorry. So that's a question that will make them say, never mind. Right. Facts. Right. That's how they are. But you know what? We figured out the secret with the banks. We figured out the secret with the bank. And the secret to getting money from the bank is relationship building. And what's relationship building? Having decent credit, having them direct deposits come in, and basically making your payments on time once you got that credit card from the bank or that secured card. I also want to touch a little bit about the secured credit card because a lot of people, um, they struggle with building credit first. They struggle. They end up getting like, what was it, them cards where you got to put your money on it. You put your check on it and then you don't really get nothing reported. Again, you're wasting your time investing with people like those. You got to put your money into a product such as a secured credit card where you're going to get something in return. It's like in life. The question is, what's in it for you? Right. So if you're trying to get that secured credit card from the bank, right? And you remember, because how do you secure it? You secure it with your own money. So the first secured credit card that I got was from Wells Fargo. Yes, it was good old fashioned Wells Fargo. And I remember I went, like I said, I couldn't really build a credit. Actually, no, I had credit in college. I messed it up and then I went back because this is when I learned about a secure credit card. So I went to Wells Fargo and I opened one for I think was $500. And it was really good because at the time, I don't know now. I mean, I got regular credit cards now, but they allowed me to graduate. So when I said to the girl, I said, "What you mean I'm a graduate?" She said, "No." She said, "Open it with the five or whatever amount you want to put down, preferably five. All right, open it with the five." But she said, in order for it to work, for you to graduate our program, you got to basically make your payments on time. So again, I'm still new. I'm still learning about restoring credit. I'm still learning about credit building again. Again, I wasn't taught. I didn't know. I had to learn the hard way, such as ruining my credit the first time. When I did this, she said to me, she says, well, let me ask you, like, where do you like to go eat? What do you like to do? I said, well, run on the McDonald's, whatever. I buy gas. I go do my hair, my nails. She said, okay. Every time you go there, some little purchases, try to do at least 10%. So the 10% of the 500 was $50, the most. She said, try to do 10%. She said, when you do 10%, right. Thank you. She said, try to do 10%, preferably. But she said, here's the trick to the 10%. Try to pay it off every month. She said, if you know you're going to go over, make sure you have the money to pay it. Because she says, she said, it's like it's like an algorithm. It watches and see how you're making your payments. So I would do little things. Like I said, if I got a cup of coffee, I'd use my card. At the time, I could fill my tank up at the time for like maybe $30 as opposed to the 60 or 70 now. I would swipe my gas and I would pay it off. Let me tell you something. Literally, within 1 year, I think it was 8 months, I graduated. I got a letter saying, congratulations, whatever. We're going to refund you back the money. So at the time, Wells Fargo ended up giving me a check for what I put down. And then they basically put their credit. So now I'm no longer securing it. They're securing their own. It's their own credit. And over time, like I kept building it and building it and building it. So like every couple of months, they would give me like credit line increases. Of course, they'd write you and say, oh, congratulations, you due to, your great payment history, whatever the generic letter said. And they would give me increase. And that's how I was able to build up my credit. And then of course, because remember, when you're trying to get that first secure credit card, nobody's gonna give you one. Nobody gives you just that one bank. You just need that one little push. Now that I'm a regular credit card, I don't have secure credit card anymore. I'm getting letters like crazy in the mail. Everybody's, asking me, oh, get this one down, and I'm getting good interest rates. And I started watching the interest rates. I literally started watching the interest rates on credit cards. Because again, a lot of times when we get credit cards, people don't look at the little fine print. They're like, oh, I got me a card now. Great, wonderful. I could buy what I want. Yes, you can buy what you want. As long as you pay them back in time, you use a certain amount, a certain percentage of it, then you're free to use a credit card. You understand? Yeah, oh yeah, I shred them too. Right, me too. And believe it or not, I only have literally like 2 cards. Because here's the thing now that you've graduated from having that secured card and having a regular credit card, this is where they'll trick you again. For you got 10 credit cards that you done maxed out again, and that's the trick. Because they don't want you growing. They don't want you being financially literate. The banks want to sit up there and make all sorts of money on you while you're not making any money for yourself. So you basically got to self-control. You got to tame yourself to only have 1 or 2. And of course, that's for emergencies because everybody got to have a credit card. You understand what I'm saying? Those are just some of the little things that I started doing. And the other thing that I did was to save some of my money. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, this is so corny. Hi, Norma. Hi, Mom. How are you? Some people are going to say this is very corny, but I coupon a lot. Yes, I got apps on my phone. I do paper coupons. I don't care because if I could keep $1 back in my pocket to spend on myself, I'm going to do it. You want to look at me funny? You want to look at me poor? I don't care. And it's only certain people that look at you that way, people that want to waste their money. The wise or the people that have their money saved or doing well on their money, whatever, they coupon. As simple as it sounds, they coupon, okay? They save it. What does that couponing do? If I'm able to save, if it's even $20 extra a week, I can take that vacation that I want to take. I gotta enjoy myself. I gotta enjoy my life. That's see, look at that, Nista. Right. I don't understand people that don't coupon. I don't get it. Like, what are you trying to prove? What, that you don't need discounts? Right. Okay. Well, I do. I'm sorry. I love couponing. I think it's good. It's a nice activity to get your mind right because again, you're looking at numbers and whatever you can get off and so forth. And a lot of people, if you stand on them supermarket lines or regular department stores, they're always look at that. There you go. There you go, Nista. These people are always couponing. They're always saving their money. There's only certain people talk about, oh, that looks poor. I don't want to do it. No, no, no. I coupon. I love couponing. Does anybody have any ideas, any place that they coupon that saves them a lot of money? I know some of them, like Rakuten and all those places, like if you, sign up for them, right? I love the rewards. If you sign up for them, they give you like a certain percentage back. Some of them give you like $10 back. Now, if you did 10 of them things, that's like $100 for the week. Why would you refuse $100? I don't know. I don't work for free. Right. Love my money. You understand? Another thing that I try to do on my channel is I know I talk about money a lot, but at the end of the day, I also try to motivate people because money, answers everything. I don't remember the scripture it is, but it's a scripture in Ecclesiastes. And what that scripture basically says, it says that, money answer it all. I don't care where you're going. Okay? If you going into a religious organization, you going into a salon, going to the gas station, you going to school, anywhere, you going to a party, you gotta have dollars to spend. You have to. And if, right, yes, thank you, thank you. If you don't have it, if you don't have it to spend, you're gonna be very uncomfortable in your life. You're gonna be miserable. Right. I feel happy when I have money. I feel good. I feel blessed. I feel like I could do the things that I want to do. Right. I could buy what I want to buy. I don't have to be at nobody's mercy. And that's what I keep trying to tell people. When you have your own, late great Billie Holiday said, God bless the child that's got his own. When you have your own, you don't have to depend on anybody. That's what I started learning later in my life. I didn't have to call and beg anymore. I didn't have to borrow anymore. I didn't have anybody to make me feel low when I didn't have. If I get broke or when I'm broke, nobody has to know. I keep it to myself. And I look for all avenues and every type of avenue to get it myself. Now, let's not be ridiculous. If somebody got it to give me, I'll take it, because when somebody's able to give you, that's your blessing right there. But please, I don't want anybody to go on feeling like, okay, you know what? That's right, Nissa. It's freedom. When you have your own, you have freedom. You have a choice. But when you have people's mercy, you don't have no choice. They say beggars can't be choosers, or what I used to hear them tell kids in school, oh, you get what you get, you don't get upset. I don't know who's going to disrespect me like by telling me that, because I'm not depending on you to give me. I'm depending on my hard work, and my blessing. That's what gives me my hard work and my blessing. Some people think, you're going to sit up there and it's just going to fall into your lap. No, it's not going to fall into your lap. You could pray all you want, you could beg all you want, but if you don't go out there and work and get it yourself, it's not going to happen for you. You have to be able to believe in yourself and go out there and work for your own. When you get that mindset, and I think one last thing I want to touch on before I end this live, I just really want people to get into the mindset of basically, right, right. And this is said, and they make you feel like you're less than, and then you start to operate like that. That's right. Right. You got to get your head right. You got to get your mental space right. Because let me tell you, people prey on your emotions. When people know that you're at a certain level, they put you down. They put you down. How wonderful it is if you can just get up and you know that you don't have to run at this one for that. You don't have to beg. You don't have to go below your dignity and let people disrespect you, because you open yourself up to be disrespected when you do that. If you're broke, as I said before previously, go to your bank. Go to your bank. The bank doesn't care about you personally. If you go to bank to borrow some money, and let's say, God forbid they reject you, because I mean, yes, you have good credit, everything like that, but banks are in the business of rejecting people too. It's a business, a financial institution. They go by their requirements and their numbers. But what I'm saying is, if you was to drive down to the bank and try to get a loan, they declined you. That bank is not going to, whoever the CSR is, I guarantee when you leave out there, they're not going to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, guess what? So-and-so just came in and tried to borrow $500 and we declined them. They might put it in their reports that they got to take for whatever to show, how they're managing the money at the bank. But it's not a personal thing with the bank. Nobody personally knows you. Okay? But when you go and you go to people, you pour your distress out to people, they know you. They know you, they know your business, and they form judgments about you. And that's another thing about financial literacy that I keep telling people. Stop telling people your business. Right. You're right, Nista. They're not going to make a public service announcement about it. They're in the business of making money and growing their money. That's the difference. It's not personal. It's financial with the bank. It's not impersonal. So this idea of, telling people, your business, telling people your struggles, you don't have this, you can't pay for that, somebody done did this, did that. Okay, move on, forget it. Try to get it on your own. I'm not against help. I'm not against, reaching out. But what I'm saying is use resources that are good. Right. Right. So Nista just said it with the bank. It says a lot of times they'll tell you what to do and how long you need to do it and then come back and reapply. Exactly. That's as far as they're going to coach and teach you. They'll say, okay, you know what? Listen, you applied for this loan and right now your credit score is 600. So if you can get it up to 620 within the next 90 days, you can reapply. They teach you, they tell you what to do. Now, if you had went into somebody personal and asked for that money, right? All they would have said is no, if they couldn't do it or they didn't want to do it. But they wasn't going to tell you to come back and reapply with a better score. As soon as you left their house or you hung up the phone, they would have called somebody and say, oh, guess what? You know what? So-and-so called me and so-and-so, they need to borrow again and this, that, and the third. But I always caution people, whenever you borrow, whether it's personal, because as much as I say try to get your own, but there's got to be somebody that you have a confident that you could go to. But if you borrow, whether it's from the bank or it's somebody that you know personally, always pay back. Pay back. Build a good history, because let's say somebody personal and you don't pay them back, they're not going to help you the next time. I know that if I lend somebody money and you look like you want to go around and you don't want to pay me back and you make an excuse, you trying to scam me and you trying to swindle me, don't you ever come back to me again. I'm going to ask you for my money. I'm going to ask you for my money. But if you find that you're not giving me back my money, okay, you'll be back. But just know that this time when you try to come back, the door will never be open again. Try to pay people back. Like, don't be holding on to people's money. If somebody was nice enough, right, don't burn any bridges. That's right, Nista. Don't burn any bridges, because you might need the person another day. You might need for them to help you. It's the same thing when you get a credit card and you default and you spend that credit card. Spend here, spend there. You done did your hair, did this, took a vacation, paid your light bill, all that stuff out of that $1,000 that they gave you. And you decide that when at the end of the 30 days or the 45-day billing cycle, you're not paying back. Well, what's going to happen? Your credit is going to default. It's going to tank. Your score is going to go down. And that credit card is going to close. So now the little money that you had on that credit card that you were using to basically, borrow from or fund when you're in a time of need is gone. It's no longer there because you burned the bridge. Although it's a plastic, you burned bridges with the credit card company. And when other credit card companies run your credit report, they saw that you had a charge off, that that it was that basically that you defaulted on a credit card, they're not going to lend you. So it's the same thing when you're dealing with a person. Treat people how you'd want to be treated. And rather than always being there, you got to keep running to people personally. Get your stuff together, level up, find little things that you can do to get your money right. I talk a lot about it. I talked about, paying yourself first. In another one of my videos, I said one of the biggest thing that we have to do is pay ourselves first. Because when I come home every day and I look in my dining room, I look on my table, I got a stack of bills this high. They're sitting right there. And I pay them. I'm going to get to them. But let me tell you, before I address any of those bills, I've already put something away for myself. I've already paid myself. I never used to do it. I'm telling you, I've lived and I've learned. I never used to. I would, try to pay every single thing. Right. That's right. We got to ask for deliverance from the good Lord. I used to pay every single thing and I wouldn't pay myself. And I came across an article. I read it. It said that we got to live by that 80-20 rule. And I never heard about that rule before. And again, like I said, coming up, Nobody taught me anything, and, going to school, they told us all the history lessons. We wrote all the papers in the world. We did all that algebra, that calculus, whatever. But nobody ever, said, hey, listen, you need to take a financial literacy class. Nobody ever said, okay, listen, let me teach you how to write a check. First time I learned to write a check, I remember I had a checking account. This is years ago. Bounced the check, whatever, this, that, and the third. Bank lady called me and said, okay, you don't just write money that you don't have. It's called kiting, right? You're using people's funds, using the bank's funds, okay? And I learned that you got to put in to take out. You got to, you reap what you sow, right? But nowhere in school did anybody ever say to me, maybe I was absent that day, okay, like, let me teach you how to write a check. Let me teach you, about credit. Let me teach you about savings. Let me teach you about budgeting. Those were not in the curriculum. But thank God that later, right? Nissa said it's sad that we don't teach children how to actually live productively. No, we don't. And again, on my channel, I have a video there where I literally have a thumbnail that says teach the children how to save. That's literally a picture, of my daughter. She's 10 years old and so forth. And I talk to them about money. I talk to my children about money. Right. I talk to my kids about money all the time. I said, money's great. Money's wonderful. Enjoy money. But you got to get in your mind of how to save money or how to make money work for you. Money should not be your enemy. But a lot of people end up making money their enemy. When you're sitting up there feeling broke, you're feeling run down, you're feeling all sorts of ways in your head, your space isn't right, it's because you've made money your enemy. I'm not going to let money be my enemy no more. That's what I had to do for me. Stop letting stop letting the color green control you. You need to control it. You need to put in what you want to take out. You can't just let money be your enemy all the time. Those are the things that I had to learn. And I also want to say, in terms of, teaching the children and so forth. Yes, I know a lot of people have gotten their kids piggy banks and so forth. And they say, drop a quarter in, drop this here and there. But I'm talking about, like, literally sitting your child down and, explaining, like, the use, necessity of money, the saving and so forth. A lot of us, we take our kids out to McDonald's, take them out to eat, whatever, this, that, and the third. But instead of just giving them money to just, buy video games or what have you, why not take them down to the bank and sit there with them and, say, let's open a savings account. Teach them the words. That's right. Break it down to them. Let them know the difference when they open a bank account, what a withdrawal or a deposit is. Teach your children that it's better to have deposits than to have withdrawals. When we're in kindergarten, they teach us all the colors of the rainbow. The one lesson that they should have taught us is that, listen, the color red, depending on how it's being used, you don't want to be in the red when you got a bank account. You don't. You said, I did that with my children, and the same credit union account that they opened at 14 years old is the same one. They were able to get their car loan with it at 20. Look at that. Because you know what, Nista? Because you prepped your children. And it's funny too, because one of my daughters, I have 4 daughters. One of my daughters, she's 18 now, and I'm so proud of her. I mean, this is off the record, but she's getting ready to go to college. I'm so happy for her. But I'm gonna tell you something about that girl. I remember I took her and I opened a bank account for her, and I did it where it was a joint, so I'm able to see what's going on in the account and everything like that. And she's so wonderful where, like, she has a little job. She works a little part-time job because she likes to buy things too. But the one thing that I love about her, and I admire so much about her, my daughter saves. My daughter saves. My daughter's 18 going on like 30. She's so meticulous with her money that if she goes out with her friends and let's say they spent, she'll come back and say, Mommy, you know what? We're not doing that again because I think I overspent. She literally pencil out what she spent and so forth. But the one thing I noticed with my daughter before she even goes out, with her friends and buys in a little thing that she wants or goes for activities, thank you so much. My daughter literally always pays herself first. She pays herself. And what was so funny was the other day we ended up getting an email from the bank, our bank together, because, about scholarships. It was literally sent to her, because this bank that we bank at, and that's another thing. When you join a bank, make sure that there's a benefit for you. What is that bank giving you for holding your money, having your direct deposit coming in there? This bank literally reached out, sent an email to my daughter and said, hey, it's time for college, because they know her age, and they invited her to apply for scholarships. So, I mean, she did apply for some of them. I don't know if she's going to get it. Hopefully they'll give her some type of money. But again, in everything in life, although she's been banking with them for like was it like a year? Like, I think a year and a half. She's been banking with them for like a year and a half. You know, they're still going to make her apply for it. They're not just going to hand it to her. But that's the track record of setting it up with the bank, just like Nista mentioned that she did with her, her son, with her children, where they end up getting their car loan from the credit union. And I love credit unions too. Love them. Yes, we claim them in the mighty name of Jesus. And this Sunday's Resurrection Sunday, we're thrilled. We're happy because right now we're going to resurrect our finances. Anybody that's down in the dumps with their finances, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's going to get better. There is no reason why anybody or nobody should be feeling down in the dumps about any type of money. But I took it upon myself because I said I couldn't be my children's teacher at school. I could only be their teacher at home as their mother. Right. I could be their teacher at home as their mom. And me being their teacher at home, I wanted to teach them the things that I necessarily didn't learn growing up. I didn't learn a lot of things about money. I had a lot of downfalls, a lot of dark days because of money issues. And I said, you know what? No more. I didn't want my children to basically suffer or feel the brunt end of not having. So if I figure if they start now, it'll be good for them when they're full blown adults. I already see progress in my daughter, the one that's 18. I see her doing what she needs to do. So, God has been good and he's been faithful. And I'm so happy that God has blessed me with the wisdom, the literacy to learn and to know about how money goes and what to do with money. I'm still learning. Listen, I'll take a course any day on money management and what to do with my money and what to invest in and so forth. I tell people, I said, listen, I'm not no CPA, I'm not no financial counselor and everything, but when I talk about money on my channel, I talk about my own experiences and things that I've done to basically have a come up in my life. These are real world examples. These are personal examples. I mentioned before on the live, I said, you know what, when I finally learned how to get the best interest rate for my money with those high yield savings account, I just happened to be blessed to be in the break room that day when those girls were talking. And I said, wait, what? I never heard of this before. And luckily that was the beginning of my blessing to learn how to do it. And sometimes in life, we might have, difficulties in certain things, but sometimes we got to have a challenge to lead to the right way. Because had I not messed up my credit before, blundered myself, I wouldn't have known about, going to, secure my credit again and starting over. I did it for myself and I'm glad that I did it. So that's basically it, people. I just wanted to talk about, financial literacy, learning, being fully aware, getting the wisdom of learning about money. You could never, ever learn enough about money. I wrote an ebook, 10 Steps to Level Up Your Money. I have it on Gumroad. It's in the link in the description. Once this video, surfaces and goes, it's not live anymore, I'll go back and put in the comments, put the link to my book. I also, if you subscribe to me on teamufinance.com, you can get a free copy of the ebook. I literally listed 10 things that anybody should start doing right now if they want to change their financial situation. And they're simple things. Right. Thank you so much, Nista. There's some simple little things that you can start doing. Start with number one. Rome wasn't built in a day. They say you got to crawl before you walk, right? You don't just run, hip, hop, and skip. You do what you got to do first. But as I said, I'm going to put the link in the description for the book. And if anybody wants to pick up a copy of the book, just to read, make it a, backyard read one day. I don't know. Just enjoy it. but it's genuinely like advice from me and things that I did and I'm still doing because I'm always learning. There's always time, right? Yes, there's always time, and there's always room for growth. There's always room for growth, and I'm happy that I'm growing. So, with that, people, with that said, I'm gonna go now. It was so wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much, Arinze. Um, Arinze, Nista want to connect with you, with the credit and so forth, because I told her how wonderful you are and how you're pushing digital products and all that stuff. How you've schooled me a lot and so forth. It's really, really wonderful. So I'm gonna, build that connection with you guys. Beautiful people, thank you so much for joining me. You have a wonderful, wonderful night. And tomorrow, we'll thank God for all the blessings, right? It's gonna be a wonderful day tomorrow. All right, y'all. Have a nice evening. Bye.